one beyond my wildest dreams. Maybe that road could have carried me to streets of gold, but things aren't always as they seem. Looking back on all the chances that I missed, some I held, some slipped away. One street over where my memories exist, I wondered what would change, I really couldn't say. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today.
Robertson County. This is 1100 WSG. I'm Neutral Laverne, and this is One Street Over. Sorry to be a little bit late. I lost my phone. Have you ever done that? You just kind of come on and you're like, uh-oh, where is it? Here we are. If we lose our phones, we just can't seem to function. And so, and it is part of our broadcast here, because I set that up on social media and all the things, and so I do apologize. We're running a little bit later than normal. But we do welcome you to One Street Over, and what we have going on here is an opportunity to say, hey man, what's happening? One Street Over, we are living. And so I always love it when my friend Danavyn Hylton is in the house. Danavyn, hello.
Good morning, sir.
And you brought Lieutenant Colonel. I love it when my veterans are in the house. Veteran of Army?
U.S. Army, yes, 24 years.
God bless you. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's an honor to serve. Really was brought up in a Navy family.
Yes.
Wanted to go U.S. Navy, but have defective color vision. So when it came to ROTC scholarships, they said, you've got a scholarship, but you got to be a Marine.
Oh, wow.
So I love Marines. At that point in my life, we were thinking Blue Water Navy. And so the Army came through with the scholarship.
There you go.
Spent 24 years total.
There you go. I had my son served in Army and infantry, and just so proud of his service. And I say often, my biggest regret is that I did not serve in the military. I grew up in the Vietnam era, so I was quite frightened about anything to do with that. Well, I think I would have. And so, in Vietnam Veterans Day on March 29th, and we're going to be at Franklin Memorial Gardens to set a place at another piece of the memorial. So I'm going to be there, and it's going to be fun. But we're here to talk with Lieutenant Colonel Denis Schroader?
Yes.
Schroader, did I say it properly? And all the things that you've got going on. Danavyn, why don't you just unpack what we're doing? This is Danavyn's show today. So there you go.
Good morning, everyone. Again, U-Turn, thank you for having me. And like you said, it's pretty much just making sure we as neighbors know what's going on one street over. And so I'm truly honored to introduce my friend, former Lieutenant Colonel, and the work that he's doing, especially highlighting our veterans. And I did not know, so it's a learning process for me, and I'm hoping that we as neighbors in Robertson County can learn and support as well, especially for those that didn't get it, was not in the military, you know, and so how can we help? And so Lieutenant Colonel and I met at another community activity in the White House about a year ago, built a really great relationship. I've seen him in the community, and just learning more about his program, and me just becoming just growing in pride for my country. You know, I wanted to make sure I highlighted, you know, Lieutenant Colonel Denis Schroader's nonprofit organization, the Price of Freedom Foundation, which focuses on highlighting Gold Star.
What we do is we tell the entire life stories of those who died while in military service to our nation. I called it the Price of Freedom because that's exactly what those individuals have paid, is the price for our freedom. Of course, they're no longer here on Earth with us, so honoring them is, in a sense, it's for them, but actually it's more for their surviving family and the friends that they knew in life. So, you know, the Gold Star families, I don't know if everybody is familiar with what a Gold Star family is, but that is defined as any person who has lost a loved one in their immediate family while they were living or while they were serving in the military, in any of the branches. So you can be a Gold Star family, you can be a Gold Star mom, dad, brother, sister, son, daughter.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And this, with Memorial Day will be upon us before we blink. And I love that, the price of freedom, because we do, I told you I was full-time ministry before I started teaching, and I'm still part-time, but one of the things that I was tasked with to do many years ago was to put some kind of a monument up for our military veterans at our congregation. So we put that up. And then on Memorial Day, we put up stories of those who are Gold Star families. So we have identified in our congregation several individuals who are related to our members. One particularly, Donna Hagan, her and John owned Springfield Drugs for years. Her brother, Terry Smith, there was a gymnasium named for him in Washington, I guess, but he died in Vietnam, a bona fide hero. And then we have just several others that we honor from Vietnam, from World War II, and they're our Gold Star families. And so I think I want to take your heading, The Price of Freedom, and put that on on our memorial at our church, if you don't mind, and maybe feature your website. I'm assuming this is all facilitated through a website. How do you facilitate telling the stories?
So what we do is we have a website and we have social media presence, but the actual work involved is it's quite intense, because what we try to do, number one, is to identify, first of all, a family that is willing to work with us. We have to get their permission first. Working with them, then we try and identify as many people as possible that knew the fallen loved one during the course of their life, not just their time in the military, but while they were children. If we can identify teachers, friends, coaches. And what we are about is doing in-depth interviews with each of these people, asking for copies of anything that may help tell that person's life story. We really want to know who they were as an entire person, what they were good at, what they struggled with, what inspired them, how they influenced the people around them. And that's the type of story that is not normally heard. There are a few. Everybody knows about Pat Tillman and his story, and I'm very happy for his family that they've been able to get his story out. But last year up at Fort Campbell, there were 7 soldiers that were killed in traffic accidents. And even as I drive on and off that base, I don't even know their names. And I will say that most of the soldiers on Fort Campbell themselves don't even know their names or anything else about them. And that's what I aim to try to change.
I love that. It's so funny because this is, you don't really understand what a passion this is for me. And if you've been listening to me, I apologize because you've heard this many times. My first childhood memory, and the reason why I did not serve, because I was big old chicken, was our hired hand named Kenneth Pease, who had been around my entire life. When I was, born, he wasn't a lot younger than my parents. And so he worked on the farm, and so Kenneth was just a part of us and felt like a big brother, really, to me. And I remember vividly him coming and saying he was graduating and he was drafted, and he was going to Vietnam, and I just remember being so proud of him because he was going to be a soldier, and I was so excited. And it seemed like he left, and then just a minute later, we get that phone call, and my mom, I remember the emotion, and us getting in the car and driving to the field.
Right.
And when you're a farmer and a car comes into the field, it's an emergency. Because you don't take a car into the field unless you need somebody. And I remember seeing my parents grieve, and I didn't know. I was just a little kid, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember his memorial and him being under glass, and he barely lived,
right?
And so I've always felt like, man, we need to tell Kenneth's story.
Right.
He stepped on a landmine. his brothers, it was so, years later, whenever his parents passed and they had his estate sale, of course I went. And I don't think his family had any idea what Kenneth meant to me. I wrote a piece that was in, because him and my daddy were super close. And we had, when I was a little kid, we had a big issue with wild dogs, okay? People would abandon dogs. They'd have puppies in the woods. A lot of the dogs I had as a child were wild puppies that we raised. And so Daddy and Kenneth had found some wild puppies, and I think they didn't want Mama to see them and say, "Will you quit bringing these puppies?" Or that. Right. And so Daddy and Kenneth were hiding them in their shirt until they could get them to me and my sister to see them. And I've got a picture of my sister and I with those puppies, and I remember that so vividly. And so I mean, he was just part of the family, and I wrote about that in the local paper years ago when I first started writing and really kind of delving into the written word, and told that story at Memorial Day. And I think his family then realized that what he meant to me. And so while I was at the sale, they had a helmet there that was part of his, gear. And they were just on, because they had all the kinds of other things, and they auctioned it off. And I asked him, I said, "Can I buy that?" And so I have his helmet. I have one of his helmets. And so it's just a treasured, possession of me. But that's always been my issue, is nobody knows his story.
Right.
Nobody knows about Kenneth. And I know that Donna's brother has been honored with the gymnasium, different things, but there's so many soldiers that paid the price.
Right. Exactly.
And we don't know anything about them.
Exactly. And even those that have bridges or things like that named after them,
but we don't really know.
Who really knows them? So what we want to do is, as much as possible, to collect what we can so that we can tell that story. We say that we serve the Gold Star families because that's the number one issue that Gold Star families have, is their sense that their loved one will be forgotten and their sacrifice no longer honored. And that actually comes true for almost all of them. 6 months to 2 years after the death happens, that outside the family and close friends like you, nobody really knows, and life goes on. And I just believe that we need to tell that story, and to tell it on an ongoing basis so that we can help those families to realize that we do honor them, we do want to remember them, we do want their names, their faces, their stories to be told. And number two, we want to preserve those memories for future generations. The very first story that we're working on and that we are so very close to getting printed is that of Alfonso Abdalemos. He was a machinist mate first class in the Navy. He had served 18 and a half years in the Navy when he was lost at sea. He left behind a wife and 3 small children. He was lost off the USS Kitty Hawk in November of 1998. And we've been working for the last almost 2 years now with his surviving children. And the reason they got in touch with us is because they were starting to try to piece together their father's story for the benefit of the youngest, who had zero memories of him at all. And they really weren't getting they weren't getting negative stuff, but the folks in my generation and the like were saying, "Oh, that was so long ago, we've all moved on." When we got involved, we said, we're the Price of Freedom Foundation. We want to honor Alfonso. Would you be willing to help us? And almost all of them sat down and did interviews with us. And it's been a voyage of discovery for all of the people that we've been working with, more so than I ever thought was going to happen. But we all have this little piece of information, and we see one aspect of that person's life. And when we hear, say, Donavyn's perspective, Danavyn knows that person in a different way than I do. And so we all get to know some more things about them. Alfonso was born in the Philippines. He served time in the Philippine Army. His father wanted him to become a U.S. citizen so that he could have better options for himself and his family, and he did. A few years later, he met his wife in the Philippines. The fact that Alfonso served in the Philippine Army was a shocking revelation to his children. They did not know about it until we were doing these interviews. And in fact, even though the book is about to be published, the story is still, in a sense, going to be ongoing, because his widow, who never remarried, and his youngest daughter are going this month to the Philippines to interview some people back there who knew him.
Oh, wow.
And we do intend to, so we publish books, and we intend to produce documentary-style videos.
Oh, that'd be fabulous.
So
yeah, that's just wonderful. Because I mean, as you're sitting there talking, I know that when I was at the estate auction for Kenneth's mom and dad, those who his nieces and nephews, I don't think they really knew him, or number one, they wouldn't have let me buy that helmet. Because I mean, I was not going to challenge a family member if they wanted to buy it.
Right.
And so I think if they had really understood, and I don't think, because he was just there for a minute. I mean, 6 months. I mean, it was just, he was barely in country before he died. And his brothers even said when they realized what he was doing, they just knew in their spirit he wasn't coming home, because he was a minesweeper.
Right.
And so with a dog. And so I doubt very seriously those who his would-be nieces and nephews and great nieces and nephews really have any idea who Kenneth was.
Right.
I was in I'm from this Mayfield area is where this is because he went to Lowe's High School with me. Of course, Lowe's is no more, but Graves County, Kentucky. And I was in with my mother at Cracker Barrel, and there was a gentleman sitting there with a Vietnam vet's hat on. And I stopped and talked to him, and I said, "Did you know Kenneth?" And he was like, "Oh, yeah." And so most of the Vietnam veterans in that area, of course, they all went to school together.
Right.
Yeah, I'll hear, because I'll ask that question a lot. They'll go, "Oh, I rode the bus with him."
We'd love to be able to tell his story. And, one of the things people sometimes ask me is, well, how far back will you go? And honestly, we haven't set any sort of time frame or time limit on that. The challenge that we encounter, though, is that the farther back in time we go, the more difficult it is to find living people who knew that person. And then we have to go more on written records and other documentation that we can find. And so, I mean, so anybody who's listening, if you know a Gold Star family, if you are a Gold Star family member, we would love to be able to tell your loved one's story. We would be honored to do so.
Yeah. And are you affiliated at all with what they're doing for the Vietnam vets at the Springfield Memorial Gardens?
Actually, I know the founder of
Ken
the the Orange Medal Foundation, and we've met at different events before, and I support him, and I let my followers know about the things that they're going on. But have we sat down and talked about doing these kind of no, we haven't had that conversation yet.
Well, and as I think about the task of telling these stories, it's monumental.
It is monumental.
It's monumental. And
it's the sort of thing that I was I struggled a lot beginning this, just because it's like, man, number one, I couldn't believe that I was the first person to have this idea. I'm certain I was not. But then I started to look for other organizations that were doing something like this, and there aren't any that are doing exactly what we're doing. We have a few that are doing kind of related things. Most of the books that I found out there that are done have been done by a particular family for their family member.
Right.
The Library of Congress is doing, and has been for a long time, been doing the Veterans History Project, but there you're sending information to them. You're not getting anything compiled back. There are some others that there's one that we are partnering with called the Dear Calvin Project, where they basically are focused on working with families that left behind small children and being able to collect not only the stories, but a letter, personal letter, and a memento from the the fallen's buddies while they were in the military
Oh,
that
wow.
are going to be addressed to that child
Oh, wow.
or
Yeah.
children. So we do work with those organizations collaboratively when we can. But yeah, it takes a lot of research, and
Oh, yeah.
we can definitely use help in that area. So if anybody, I've been told that genealogists love to do research, so we'd love to have conversations with anybody who's motivated that way. We have 3 other families that we're working with right now. The one that's a little bit more along the process was a soldier who was killed in Vietnam. We have Navy family, another Navy family, and an Air Force family as well that we're definitely needing researchers help with. And it was basically something that was placed on my heart. I was working for a college of nursing and traveling all over the place here, and but I represented the military side of the college, and so we traveled with other schools, and I was sitting at dinner with a colleague from another a sister school, and was going over this idea with her. Now you have to kind of put this mental picture in your mind. This is a female retired Marine Corps drill sergeant. Okay.
That's intense. It's like, I want to be her.
Yes. So I went over this idea. We weren't thinking about doing the videos at the time. We're just focused on doing the books. And I said, what do you think about this? Have you heard of anybody doing anything like this? And she said, I don't care if anybody else has been doing it. Love the idea. Get off your ass and make it happen.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so there I was, traveling 80-90% of the time, no experience writing anything other than military writing, which is it put you to sleep.
Oh, of course. I understand.
And have zero experience with anything video related. I do photography, but that's a totally different skill set. And just had this burn in my heart. And I was using all of these excuses. So the job went away a couple months later. I said, okay, God, I get the message. My time excuse has gone away. Now I don't have any money, but I have this passion. And so that's what I've been doing, and slowly over the last 4 years built up a board of directors. I got a small number of volunteers that help with some key critical things for us, and we've got a handful of families that we're serving. But my vision and what I believe God's placed in my heart to do is to create something that's going to be able to serve every Gold Star family, if they want it. Now, not every family is going to want it. There's all kinds of dynamics that could come into the picture here. But for those that want it, I want to be able to create enough of an organization and an infrastructure and support system that we can offer it to every single one. And literally there are close to 1,000 that die every single year.
That's amazing. You just don't understand that. Well, we lost a soldier just recently that was they honored him up in Jolton, and died in a helicopter crash, and he was a Metro police officer as well. And so there's just all kinds of stories constantly.
And so yes, a lot of people think about the fact that active duty. We're going to be talking about active duty, but I spent half of my career as a full-time reservist. So this extends to those in the Army, in the reserve component, so National Guard and Reserve. And I definitely have some follow-ups I need to do for those 2 National Guard pilots that we definitely want to offer this service to their families.
There were 2, and I think just one that was actually local. They were both Tennesseans, I think, but one that was in this area. Okay. And I don't know. I just only know about it because ILU reached out to me because they were doing a flag they were doing a flag memorial that they
Right.
needed some help with on Monday. But I tell you, we do need to pause for just a moment and take a break. But enjoying this conversation, as anybody who knows me, this is my heart. I love our military, and just can't do enough to honor the price of freedom, and appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
Lieutenant Colonel. And we're going to pause for a moment and talk about one of our sponsors, Barry and Rebecca Richards with the Exit Realty Garden Gate team. Worked with them we got to see them on Monday night. They were at the Open Door Pregnancy and Resource Center, and I want to just pause here and say, if you have not gotten on board to work with the Open Door Pregnancy and Resource Center, they just did their big dinner. And they don't call it a fundraiser. It's just the awareness of what they're doing in the community. Reach out to them and become a sponsor. You can be a monthly sponsor. You can do whatever it is. You can be a prayer partner, whatever it is, because places like Open Door, they're changing our community from the inside out, and that's what changes the world, guys. So Barry and Rebecca see that. They volunteer with them. Barry does the video every year and tells the story, and he was there, so I got to sit at the table with them as we just honored their work. But I always bring up the things they do in the community because that's the kind of people they are. If you want a real estate team that knows the community, they're from Cross Plains. They've been there 27 years now, I think. They're going to be at the Kilgore Station Bluegrass Festival as well, third weekend in May. They're on the board that helps bring us that. But they're so involved in the community. They helped me at in my classroom because Barry was a vice president of a media marketing company for 17 years before he went into real estate. So he brings all of that experience to the table and just helps tell stories and do all the things beautifully. And they can certainly tell the story of the property you're wanting to sell. And if you've got property that's just not getting any action, it's just not getting any interest, you probably need new pictures, you probably need video, you might need drone footage. He can do all those things and do it beautifully. Rebecca, one of the first in the area to be a seniors real estate specialist, been at this, I think, over 15 years now. She's been a realtor, and she crosses every T and dots every I. She stays up to date, studies all the time to make sure she's properly representing you. Or maybe you want to be a part of the Exit Realty Garden Gate team. They would love to mentor you. If you want to reach out to them, they specialize in Robertson County properties, Barry and Rebecca do, but they also buy and sell in the surrounding counties and across the state line in Kentucky. You can connect with them at sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, or buy, B-U-Y, at robertsoncounty.com, or just call Rebecca at 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425, and let them know that you turned simple, and thank them for sponsoring One Street Over. We are continuing our conversation with the Price of Freedom. This is an organization brought to us by former Lieutenant Colonel Denis Schroader and Danavyn Hylton, as he always does, brings interesting folks to the table. And just could not say enough about this one. This is one that's right on my heart. And I'll, as an audio video production teacher, if you have not discovered the wonders of iPhones and that it's a TV studio in your pocket, and there are lavalier mics that you can get that hook up to that, you can produce with little iMovie apps. Everything you need is on that phone.
Oh,
It's
yes.
amazing.
It is.
It is amazing. Now we do things beyond that, but the basics of it. What I tell my students, I actually told my principal the other day, we were doing recruiting. I said, really, you ought to make audio video production a mandatory class, because every single one of us are broadcasting all the time.
All the time.
And we don't understand the implications of it. And I said, this should be a requirement, because it is forever, y'all. And what we have in our pockets now is breathtaking.
Oh, absolutely.
Breathtaking. So you can do so much
Oh, yes.
with what you've,
In fact, one of the things that the Opdahl family had asked is if we could help them get some equipment that they could take to the Philippines with them to do these. They were going to use at least one iPhone. I suggested that if they had two, you could get two different camera angles, and so we had a couple of videos, YouTube videos, that kind of talk about how to position your cameras. And so yes, we acquired some lighting for them. We acquired a Steadicam in case they wanted to be walking around with with the camera. We acquired some microphones for them, both hardwired and wireless, so that they could adapt to whatever their situation is. And it was for our budget, which is tiny, it was a big bite, but it was about $520 or something like that to get that with the with the stands and all. But
it's amazing. And that's one thing, when I came into the audio video program, we're buying all this equipment and we're buying things so we can teach the students beyond the what you have in your pocket. But truly, what you have in your pocket is beyond anything we had 10 years ago.
Absolutely.
It's incredible. I'm blown away.
I personally have used a professional photographer in Nashville who uses iPhone only for her work. And she's done, actually the videos on our website were shot by her on that iPhone. And my headshots for the last 2 years were shot by her. So I'll give a plug to Nita Ann in Nashville. So
I'm a photographer as well, and I did film photography, and I'm having to learn digital from just doing portrait type stuff. And people who don't want to invest money in having a photographer, I said, if you have an iPhone, put it in portrait mode and take your pictures. I truly, and if you want to, have a unique setting and the things that we offer where I take pictures, that's one thing. Right. But if you just need pictures, just put your phone in portrait mode. You're a photographer. It's amazing what you can do. And what you've got in your pocket blows me away. Blows me away.
Technology can be is a great equalizer here, and basically it's a matter then of the creativity, the photographer's eye, being able to modify light and do creative use of lighting. That I don't think the technology is there to do that for you yet.
Yes. Oh, it's evident. All you got to do is look at some of the things I've done in my barn, and my lighting's terrible. I haven't gotten that figured out yet. But that's why I tell people, go outside on a sunny day, on a nice day, kind of in the shade. Make sure there's no shadows on their face, and take your pictures, man.
Right.
You can do it. Talking with retired Lieutenant Colonel Denis Schroader. Schroader. And Danavyn Hylton's here. Donovan's been here just sitting so quiet. You want to say anything?
Well, I mean, I'm just curious to know how much does it cost, excuse me, to make the books as you're going through that process?
Well, we are discovering that as we go. We've been blessed because the biggest cost, if we had to pay somebody to do it, is to be the writer. We had we were blessed to have a volunteer who invested 5 months of his life into going through all of the interviews that we had completed, all of the photos, and everything else that we had collected. And he happened to have been a criminal investigator for the Air Force. Is that they could do this for $10,000 to $20,000. Now, we were blessed that we didn't have to do that. I know that we've been able to, we couldn't get away from a little bit of travel. Most of the family members that we interviewed were in San Diego. A couple of summers ago, I took a drive out there. Just the cost for gas and two night stay at a cheap motel still wound up costing us about $650 to make that trip. I've been using cameras and other equipment that other people have donated or volunteered. The hard costs for actual that we have acquired was for the cover of the book. We paid about $1,000 for that. But I will tell you that that cover is a local artist here who's been doing this for like 15 years and has a track record of creating covers that sell. So it's like, yes, we definitely want people to buy the book, and people do judge a book by its cover.
Yes, they do.
So I think that was an investment worthwhile. The publisher that we're going with, we were struggling with some technical issues about it. So we basically got what I think is going to be a reasonable workaround, so that we're going to do or a print-on-demand service for most of what people will be ordering, but we want to produce an offset print book in high quality that we can give to the family, because that's basically what we're promising these families. We're going to give you the hard, and that's going to cost us $1,700 for the minimum print order for that. So on the cheap, we've been able to do this here for under $3,000.
Okay.
But that's probably not going to be our case going forward, unless I find some additional writers that are willing to take this on and get excited about it and can produce an excellent story that is honoring and truthful. And that's basically the bottom line, because it's the writer who's going to be the most critical piece to this.
Yeah, because you've got to, that's the thing I talk to the students about all the time is we're going to be doing some podcasting, and you've got to be able to tell the story. And people get very intimidated. It's like, well, I got to write it out. And if you can verbally tell a story, just record yourself verbally telling it and then just transcribe it.
Right.
That's what I encourage people. I have so many friends who preach. I can't write. I'm like, you get up in the pulpit and preach every Sunday. You can write? Are you kidding me? Transcribe your sermons, brother.
Right.
And I mean, it's just people don't realize, and sometimes that's some of the most compelling reading because you can just almost hear the person's, rather than them trying to write a story, they're telling a story. And that's one thing I didn't know I was a writer until I just started writing and just taking the stories I would tell and just transcribing them.
Right.
And so there's
the writers
people can write, they just
people
don't
can
realize
write,
it.
But
yeah.
I would say that a biographer needs to be able to listen
True.
to your story and your story and my story, and our stories aren't going to be the same because nobody has the exact same perspective, and be able to take all the photos, all the videos, all the letters and military records and research about what was going on in a certain place at a certain time, where that person was there, and they have to be able to weave all of these together into a coherent story. So that's why I think that the biographer is a little bit unique. Now, Keith Hayden is the volunteer who wrote our first book for us. He had written and published 2 prior books. One was a work of fiction and one a nonfiction book. And this was something that he was passionate about. So he volunteered his time for us with that. In fact, if you go to our website, you'll see a picture of him, a little short bio. But that's the kind of thing that not everybody's going to have that kind of time or
it's
be able
very
to put
time
into
consuming.
it.
Yeah, but
So I'm hoping and praying that I get several writers that say, hey, I'd like to do this. And yes, I can. One of the things that we are planning is that as we get sales of the book, that we're going to pay a royalty to Keith to compensate him for the almost a half year of his life that he put into this. And we'd be willing to do that for any other writer who comes to us. But at this moment, we can't pay anything up front. We just,
of course,
or maybe, God willing.
Yeah,
God
you just never know.
You just never know.
You just never know what He'll put in your path
exactly.
to do.
So if we get a major endowment from someplace, then we certainly, I believe in paying for the talent that makes this happen. So I've been blessed that I've been able to support myself on my military pension and Social Security and small VA disability, and so I don't have to come to the nonprofit to support myself.
Sure.
We have no paid staff currently, but we have this huge vision, and we would love anybody who has been inspired by what we're talking about to have a conversation with us about how they can participate, whether that's as a volunteer, whether it's a donor, whether it's a introduction to somebody. We have needs just about everywhere. We were talking before the show about being pulled in different directions. I desperately need somebody like a virtual assistant to say, Dennis, this is your schedule for today.
Yeah, I got you. I think, yeah, that would be nice. Siri, can you help us out here? But I'm waiting for my Siri on my phone to go, what? Okay, we're going to pause for a second and do another ad. I saw Miss Lee Marie come on into the studio. She is going to be on deck here at 8 o'clock with The Go Show. And if you've never checked out The Go Show, it's all about the things. It is intentionally a community calendar. So she can just talk to you about all the events going on in Robertson County. And what cracks me up is she's fairly new to the county, and she knows more about it than I do. And I've been here since '92, and she just runs circles around all of us who've been here for a while. But she really pays attention to what's happening in the community, and she's going to share that with you. And they always do a devotional. It's just a wonderful, wonderful show. Hope you'll stick around for the Go Show coming up right after this one. And I hope you'll go out and check out Corbin Creek Greenhouse Gifts and Gardening Center. Go to their Facebook page and keep up with them on social media. Stay up to date on when they're going to go from winter hours to spring hours. They're on the winter hours still, according to social media, 10 to 4 on Monday through Saturday and 1 to 4 on Sunday. So keep that in mind. Now, they've got some events coming up. They've got just beautiful things. They're really getting going with their bedding plants, all of those things. As you get ready for your garden, get going. Brian Pulley, he'll be on here tomorrow with United Way. He says they did all of their bedding plants from Corbin last year. Best garden you ever had. And they've got 2 events they want you to save the dates for. First is April 1st. That's the In Full Bloom Festival at Corbin Creek Greenhouse. Starts at 9 a.m. The In Full Bloom Festival at Corbin Creek. And again, that's on April 1st, 9 a.m. And then they've got their Customer Appreciation Day that is coming up May 13th at 9 a.m. And they're going to have, all kinds of freebies there that day, but planting stations for the kiddos, Mother's Day stuff going on. But those are 2 days. They say save the dates. And look for me to be out there here just real soon, because I've got to get my CBD stuff replenished. That's something that helps me with my arthritis. My doctor told me to take it. That's all there is to it. And I don't like taking pharmaceuticals. I have really bad arthritis. And it takes care of that overall arthritic pain for me. And it may be a game changer for you as you deal with anything that's inflammation driven. They have as we start getting into bug season and you get the bug bites, they've got a salve for that. They've got a pain salve. They've also got a headache salve. And those, Miss Jane and Miss Amy, they make right there in their house. It's so cool. This stuff is all processed from plants that Amy's brother Bill grows. So if you want Robertson County CBD, and if you're curious about that, go and talk to them, and they can school you on all the science behind it. But it's at 4920 Highway 161 here in Springfield. Their phone number is 615-384-3185, 615-384-3185. Always let them know that you turn Spentia. And, they're cleaning up from the storms, too. They had the wind, took the plastic off the greenhouses. And so just praying that they get everything back to normal. How about all you guys are back to normal? I was talking to some friends last night about how long their power was out. I have a friend in Ridgetop. I think her power's still out. I haven't talked to her today, but wow, y'all have power? Everything good for y'all?
Well, yeah, I was blessed. I live in White House, and we were without power for 6 hours. And I know people that were without power through the weekend.
Oh yeah,
and of course, unfortunately, we've had several people in the area who were killed during during that storm. So.
That young girl up in Hendersonville, just heart-wrenching.
Yes.
And just such a tragedy, just an accident.
Yep.
Just a tragic accident, and that's just heartbreaking. And just pray for their family for sure.
We heard. I go to Cigar Lounge in White House that was started as.
I bet you know Todd Hibbs.
I do know Todd.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And he talks about that. He's my brother. He and I work together. He and I have offices in this. He's our media director at Madison, where I was full time before I came here. And so he's my dear brother. I miss him.
Then you know about Rick Cigar Lounge and how it started as a Christian outreach to men.
Yes. So it's wonderful. I love the concept.
We were at our men's group meeting last night, and they had. Part of Robbie Gallaty's message from Sunday, and he was talking about this young woman and about her, just her testimony and some writing that she had written in a journal and about her faith and the like, and that his hope and his prayer is that this loss, this horrible loss, will actually help to create an awareness in young folks that, hey, our time here on earth is not going to be forever. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. Who am I? Who is God? And wrestle with those kind of questions so that there can be a real spiritual awakening that can come from this. So, and I personally know that God can take the worst of their situations and turn things around and make things not necessarily better, but a blessing to others in some way or fashion. And I've seen him do it in ways from my life that totally unexpected. So
Well,
I'm praying that for this family.
That scripture that people say, all things work for good for those who love the Lord, but not all things are good.
Right.
But he can use all things. If you want just an overwhelming example of that, look at the life of Dietrich Bonhoeffer. I mean, if you don't know who that is, look it up, who died during in a concentration camp. Oh my goodness. Has God used that horrifying reality for him to be a profound statement of faith? And so, all things work for good for those who love the Lord, but not all things are good.
Right.
But he'll use them all if you'll let him. And but anyway, yeah. And I had not known much about her, but I want to know more.
Right. I
want to know more about her story because she was a amazing young woman. And that's the thing. I tease my students all the time, and I'm 60. I'm like, I'm old, y'all. You're 15, and I tease them. I'm like, because I tell them to turn down their headsets because I'm very hard of hearing because I've listened to music too loud in radio for so many years, and I say, turn it down, and you will. When you're 60, you'll be going, I can't hear. Miss Vivio told me to turn it down. I said, I'll be dead and gone, but you'll remember it. But there's a thing that washes over me when I say that, and I look out at my students, and I know I'll probably outlive some of them. And that's one of those things, and you just because the young among us, they just don't. They're 10 foot tall and bulletproof.
Right.
And they don't realize the fragility and the extraordinary gift of what they have in front of them.
Right.
And because they're so young and you just can't see it.
Right.
And I'm one of these young people that from the very early age, I got it. And I think maybe it's because of Kenneth, losing Kenneth like we did. Maybe that was the reason why I knew. I can remember as a young person, just I just want to grow old, Lord. I just want to have a life. I want to have a family, and that was a great prayer for me when I was a young person. But most people, they don't even see past that. No, it's like we're just living full. But it's I don't know what I'm trying to say, and I don't mean to be heavy on that, but that's the reality of it.
It is.
I've not talked to a teacher yet that hasn't had. One that's been in it for maybe more than 10 years that hasn't had a young person that they've known and felt so close to that is gone.
Right.
And oh my gosh, that's something that, man, if her story can be that to them and saying, take serious what's going on.
Hoping for and praying for and believing in, and so, but it's like. It's a similar thread that weaves throughout and is part of why I'm doing what I'm doing, and that is that we need to. It's better for us to live in our daily existence knowing that this could be our last day on earth, because then I can be more intentional about it. I can be more aware of the blessings that God has placed in my life. I can be more aware of the people around me who matter to me, and I can be more willing to come up and say, hey, I appreciate you, I love you, I'm glad that you're in my life, what can I do for you? And I'm 60, almost 67, and I've been around for a long time, and I have a grandfather that lived to be 100, and my father is still alive at 89, and his
Wow.
brother's alive at 98. So
Longevity.
so I have hopes that I have a long,
Yeah.
but I don't.
Yeah.
I don't count on that.
Right.
And I don't. I try every day to, and that's what I'm hoping that people will do and look at this as a positive thing, to say every day is a blessing, and I want to live my life with joy in this moment. So that's what I'm praying and hoping that will come out of this tragedy, this awareness that we can say, hey, yes, this was a horrible thing for her, but there is still blessings around. You and you and you and you are still
Amen.
alive with us,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, exactly. What a beautiful calling that you have on your life. That's just amazing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to pause. I'm going to take my last break here, but we're talking with retired Lieutenant Colonel Denis Schroader and Danavyn Hylton, and just having a wonderful conversation, and want you to know about the price of freedom. Cannot say enough about that. And we're entering into a season, I think we're going to be focusing more on that, because we go into Memorial Day, and then we have the 4th of July, and then we have Veterans Day. And so we seem to have that season that we really focus on our veterans, but it's a constant thing that we need to be mindful of those who are. I've got my sweet friends, the Driscolls. Hannah is graduating from boot camp this week. And that family, if you don't know Matt and Christy Driscoll, Christy still serves and is she works in Nashville. She's in the Air Force, and Matt is retired, and now Hannah is in the Air Force. Wow. Cool. And so, in the Guard, I guess. But I just can't say enough about those who are serving. I just appreciate them so much. So just keep all of them in your prayers constantly, and for protection and for guidance, and just be thankful that there's people that are willing to step up and take care of you. And with that said, let's go ahead and talk about one of our sponsors here. We're going to talk about Cumberland Connect. And if you have, my power was out from Friday to Sunday. And I guess we didn't turn our generator on. We kept thinking it would come back on Friday night. But when we got up Sunday morning and realized it was still, Saturday morning, realized it was still out. We have a generator. So we fired up the generator, plugged in all the refrigeration, and kept all the food safe and all of those things. We're very fortunate to have that. And so we were just kind of getting comfortable camping out. We had gas top on the stove, so we could function without having to go to a hotel or anything. But you're like, I wonder if I wish I had the internet. And then I thought, I now have Cumberland Connect, and I just wonder if I plug it into my generator, because there were no lines down around my house. So theoretically, the power outages we had were beyond us. It was just something that was on the pathway to us. So I plugged in Cumberland Connect into my generator. I had internet, even when the power was out. So we were roughing it, but not really. And Cumberland Connect was a big part of that. And so I just say, go check it out. I've got a gig. It's $80. That's it. It's and I was paying $65 to AT&T for speeds of like 3.5. It was terrible. 600. It's amazing, my upload and download speeds, and they're the same. It is just incredible. You can get a gig for $80, y'all. And if you're somebody, I can't even afford any kind of internet. Well, there's a affordable connectivity program now that provides qualifying households with monthly credit to help pay for internet services. And if eligible, you could receive up to $30 per month for broadband services, and that can get you basic, which is so much better than what I had for $65 from AT&T. Just saying. If you're a Cumberland Electric customer, you're going to be eligible for Cumberland Connect. So any Cumberland Electric customer, you can access this. Now, they may not be in your neighborhood yet, but they may be there. So go and check it out at 1-800. You can call them 1-800-987-2362. 1-800-987-2362, or you can go to cumberlandconnect.org. Cumberlandconnect.org. You can put in your address and find out exactly when they're going to be knocking on your door, and it's just a wonderful service. I cannot say enough about it. And even when my power was out, I still had internet. That was so cool. Go and talk to them today, and be sure and thank them for sponsoring our little thing we call Mystery Over. Let them know you turned sent you. We are talking with retired Lieutenant Colonel Denis Schroader and Danavyn Hylton, and we're talking about this program, The Price of Freedom. And is it thepriceoffreedom.org?
It's the Price of Freedom Foundation.
The Price of Freedom Foundation.org?
.org, yeah.
.org, okay.
Well,
So,
actually,
or
the website is just priceoffreedomfoundation.org. When I went to register it, it's like the Price of Freedom.
I've got you.
That wasn't available. Just so priceoffreedomfoundation.org
Gotcha.
is our website.
Okay.
They can, somebody wants to contact us, they can email at info@priceoffreedomfoundation.org. We have a presence on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and they would search for the Price of Freedom Foundation at each of those.
Okay. And I mean, that's easy to remember because we all understand the price of freedom is great. It is great. And I just love that you're doing this. And anytime you want to come on and talk, just come on.
I appreciate that. And
Yeah,
so, we'll talk
anytime.
about that a little bit later to
For
kind
sure.
of get a schedule going. So
Yeah,
maybe
you got
Danavyn can help.
Just introduce the lieutenant colonel to someone. One of the bigger things, and if you do have time, you have a skill set, please make sure you email Lieutenant Colonel, and congratulations in advance for the continued success of the organization.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, like I said, we was talking to you, I think, before the program that our first book has gone to the publisher. They've did the interior design. They sent it back to me. I found about 10 minor things. So I sent that back. They sent me a revision, so I have to go through that revision. But assuming that everything is good, we're going to go to print like the end of this week.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yes.
Well, when it's available, we want to get you back on and let's talk about that.
Great.
And an introduction. Do you know Nancy Arnold?
I do not.
Okay, she used to work for Lifeway.
Okay.
And I just saw Nancy just like the video, so she's probably listening. Nancy would love to I think I understand this. Nancy was on with Danny Ashley. They put out a book on Coach Boyce Smith. Okay. She's expert at this, at doing books.
Super.
And she says, I would love to teach somebody this and what she knows. But she worked for Lifeway, I'm wanting to say 20 plus years.
Wow.
But she's on watching right now. So Nancy, you guys need to make a connection. Tell them again how to connect with you.
Okay. Well, we have the email address is info@priceoffreedomfoundation.org. She can call me direct if she wants.
Give her a number. Give it twice. That's how we do it on radio, 2 times.
615-389-1867. That's 615-389-1867. You can call me there, text, message me. You can email. And then, of course, to take a look at the website and get a sense for what we're doing and who we're trying to reach, it's www.priceoffreedomfoundation.org.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. Thank you for being a part of the show. God bless you. Look forward to seeing you again. Look forward to seeing you again, Donovan. And thank you guys for being a part of the show. Hope you'll join us tomorrow for One Street Over. This is 1100 WSGI. Stay tuned. The Go Show is on the way. God bless.